What if I told you humanity isn't just one species, but three, and that only a rare few have the potential to awaken to a truth that most will never even begin to see? Imagine being part of an ancient secret, a hidden reality that most will never touch, not because they are incapable, but because they were never meant to. They were designed to follow the system, consume, obey, and never ask the questions that would shatter the illusion they live in. The world you know is built on a lie, and the Gnostics, an ancient sect, understood this. The moment you begin to question, to feel the pull of something deeper, the Gnostics would say, "You're not one of time's them asterisk. You're different, and that makes you dangerous." Let me take you on a journey to uncover a mystery that has been buried for centuries. In 1945, deep beneath the Egyptian desert, a farmer stumbled upon an incredible discovery, a collection of ancient jars hidden for over 1,600 years. Inside those jars, sealed away from time, were the Nag Hammadi texts. These texts contained fragments of a worldview so radical that empires had worked relentlessly for centuries to destroy it. Among the most unsettling revelations hidden in those pages was this shocking truth: humanity isn't one species, it's three. The Gnostics didn't see humanity through the lens of race, class, or intelligence. They saw three distinct types of people based on their essence, the very force that animates them from within. They called these types the helix, the psychics, and the pneumatics. Each one operates at a different frequency of awareness. Let me ask you this: what if you belong to one of these categories? What if you're part of a rare few who could awaken to the truth? And how can you even know which type you are? Once you grasp what the Gnostics are saying, you'll start to see the world in an entirely different way. You'll begin to recognize these three types everywhere: in your workplace, in your family, in the crowds, on the streets. The Gnostics' radical worldview might sound bizarre at first, but once you understand it, you can never unsee it. You'll start understanding why things are the way they are. Let's start with the first type, the times helix asterisk. Derived from the Greek word times hyle asterisk, meaning matter, the helix are beings entirely rooted in the material world. They are not evil. They're not less human, but according to the Gnostics, they lack the divine spark, asterisk, pneuma asterisk, that connects a soul to higher spiritual realms. The helix live entirely through their senses, appetite, instinct, and the gratification of physical desires. They are not reflective. They never ask why. They simply exist within the flow of material life. They consume, reproduce, survive, and then return to dust. The Gnostics believe the helix to be like automatons, not robots in the literal sense, but beings who move through life on autopilot. They follow trends without questioning them, accept authority without resistance, and chase fleeting pleasures without considering what lies beyond the surface. For the helix, the material world is all that exists, and they are content with that. The idea of transcendence is foreign to them because there's nothing inside them pulling them toward it. The demiurge, the false creator, made them this way. They are the workers, the consumers, the cogs in the machine that make the system function. And they'll never rebel because rebellion requires a spark they simply don't carry. This is not judgment. It's the Gnostic observation of reality. The helix are crucial for the system to work. Without them, the machinery of the material world would collapse. They build the cities, staff the factories, and keep society moving. but they do so without ever wondering if there's something more. The Gnostics viewed the helix as creations of the archons, the false rulers, not the true source of the universe. The helix are beings of flesh, animated by instinct, but they do not contain the fragment of eternity that defines the higher types. The second type, the times psychics asterisk, may appear to be awake. They seem spiritual, believe in God, and practice religion. They talk about ethics, morality, and higher purposes. But according to the Gnostics, the psychics are still trapped. The word times, psychic times, comes from times psyche asterisk, meaning soul. The psychics possess a soul. They have inner lives, feel emotions like guilt, hope, fear, and longing, and they ask questions, but their questions never go deep enough. They accept the answers given to them by external authorities, priests, scriptures, traditions, by the very structures the demiurge created. The psychics are the believers. They follow the rules. They attend services. They recite prayers, thinking they are worshipping the true God. But in reality, they are worshipping the demiurge, the false creator of this world. They are trapped in organized religion, convinced that obedience will lead them to salvation. The tragedy is that their obedience keeps them bound. The psychics aren't asleep like the helix, but they are dreaming. They mistake the dream for awakening. They mistake the false light for the true source. They have the capacity for times gnosis asterisk, direct inner knowing, but they have outsourced their spirituality. They've handed their power over to intermediaries, priests who claim to speak for God, books that claim to hold the ultimate truth. And so, they remain trapped in the cycle of reincarnation, believing that one more lifetime of devotion will finally lead to salvation. The Gnostics saw the psychics as tragic figures. They have the divine spark within them, but it is buried beneath layers of programming, beneath belief systems designed by the archons to keep them docile. The psychics will argue for their chains. They will defend the very institutions that imprison them. And when they see someone questioning those institutions, they react with fear, suspicion, and even hatred. To challenge these structures is to threaten their entire sense of self and identity. But then there are the times pneumatics asterisk, and this is where everything shifts. The word times, pneumatic times, comes from times pneuma asterisk, meaning spirit or breath. Pneumatics are those who carry the fullest expression of the divine spark. They are not just animated by soul, they are animated by spirit, by the same substance that flows from the pleroma, the realm of true light, beyond the reach of the demiurge. Pneumatics are rare, always have been. Throughout history they have been the mystics, the heretics, the seekers who couldn't accept the answers they were given. They're the ones who feel a deep, unshakable knowing that something is wrong with the world, that the stories don't add up, that the authorities are lying. They sense that there is a truth hidden beneath the surface, and they won't rest until they uncover it. The pneumatics do not fit into the system. They try. Many of them spend years trying to belong, trying to believe what others believe, trying to find meaning in the structures that satisfy everyone else. But it never works. There's always friction. There's a sense of displacement. They feel like they're living in a world that wasn't made for them, and eventually they stop trying to fit in. They turn inward and begin the search for time's gnosis asterisk, direct knowledge of the divine. Once they taste that knowledge, even for a second, there's no going back. The Gnostics believed pneumatics were the greatest threat to the demiurge. You can't bribe them with pleasure like the helix. You can't pacify them with religion like the psychics. They see through the illusions. They recognize the archons for what they are. They know this world is a counterfeit, a shadow of something far greater, and they refuse to bow to the false god that rules it. The Gnostics knew that pneumatics had to be silenced, which is why they were persecuted, their texts burned, their teachers hunted down. A world full of awakened pneumatics is a world where the demiurge loses its power. So, how do you know which type you belong to? The Gnostics would say, if you're asking the question, you're already not a helix. The helix don't wonder about such things. They don't seek hidden knowledge. They don't question anything. The question is really between psychic and pneumatic. The psychic looks for answers outside themselves. They want someone else to tell them the truth. The pneumatic, on the other hand, knows that truth cannot be given. It can only be experienced, remembered, in the silence of their own awareness. If you've spent your life feeling like an outsider, if you've questioned everything, even when it cost you relationships, then the Gnostics would say you're on the edge of awakening. If you've ever felt a longing for something you can't name, a pull toward a home you've never seen, that's the divine spark calling you back to the pleroma. You can't ignore it. The more you listen, the more the illusion begins to crack. But the challenge is this: the world is designed to suppress the pneumatics. Every institution, every system, every distraction is engineered to keep you from turning inward, to keep you busy, to keep you afraid, to make you doubt yourself. The archons know the pneumatic is the only true threat to their power. They flood your mind with noise, endless entertainment, conflict, reasons to look outward instead of inward. For many pneumatics, the spark stays dormant for a lifetime. They feel the friction, but never understand why. They sense that something is wrong, but never find the source. This is why the Gnostics stress times, gnosis times above all else. Not faith, not obedience, direct knowledge, the kind that can only be awakened, not taught, the kind that shatters the prison of belief. The prison isn't made of matter, it's made of belief. The stories you've been told about who you are, where you came from, what you're supposed to do. The moment you stop believing them, the moment you turn inward and touch the spark the demiurge cannot reach, the walls crumble. The Gnostics didn't see these three types as a hierarchy. They saw them as a map of spiritual development. The helix is trapped in matter. The psychic is caught in belief. The pneumatic is awakening to the truth. The potential within the pneumatic is infinite, because the pneumatic is not just human. They are a fragment of the eternal, and once they awaken, they are no longer bound by this world. If the Gnostics are right, if humanity truly is three types, can the helix or the psychics change? Can they awaken? The texts aren't clear. Some believed the types were fixed from the moment of creation. Others believed anyone could awaken, given the right conditions. But one thing is certain: most people will never awaken. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Awakening requires something most people are unwilling to do. It requires letting go of everything you've been told, facing the void, standing alone. Most people would rather stay asleep. Most people would rather cling to the comfort of the known, even if the known is a lie. But for you, if you're watching this, if these words resonate with you, the Gnostics would say, you're not a helix. You might be a psychic, teetering on the edge of awakening. Or you might be a pneumatic, forgotten but starting to remember. Either way, the divine spark inside you is stirring, and once that spark stirs, it will never stop calling you toward the truth. The Gnostics left their wisdom hidden for a reason. They knew that someday those who carry the spark would find it. And when that moment comes, the awakening will begin. The journey doesn't end here. There are deeper mysteries to uncover, ancient truths the archons have buried for centuries. The awakening has already started. Are you ready to answer the call?